Let's go.
It's
Hey. How about that? That's the first time we've done this without the countdown thing, Mr. C.
kind of got to mix it up a little bit. Got to
Gotta
have a
mix
little
it
bit of
up.
variety.
Gotta
Spice of
mix it
life.
up. I apparently have not turned on all of my lighting, but that is perfectly all right. How are you doing, Mr. C?
It's a chilly Midwest, mid-January kind of a way, so all the better a reason to be interacting and putting together a little what were our thoughts on a little Marvel TV. Uh, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. I'm thankfully not in the Midwest, so it's a chilly day on the West Coast here, but yeah, certainly warmer than most of the country. Yeah.
Very good.
Well, anyways, so thank you all for tuning in. And in this episode, we are talking about Echo on Disney Plus, the latest MCU series or Marvel series on the channel. Echo was I did not realize. So we were just chatting. Mr. C and I were chatting a little bit beforehand. I didn't realize how old this actually. How about that? We got the same props. We got the same props. That is awesome. But you were just saying, how old is this? How old is Echo? When was Echo first created?
Well, 99. So, if here we are in 2024, or early yet in 2024, but, I didn't take the exact publication dates, but
Right.
we're close enough to say the character's 25 years old and, hasn't been in continuous publication across each of those 25 years, but still and granted, this wasn't the absolute debut of the character in the TV format, the streaming format, because on the Hawkeye show is where the character appeared outside of comics in the streaming premiere, in the film premiere. But now here we are as the lead character, the title role, Echo. Uh, so here were 5 episodes, and here we go to speak on them.
Awesome, awesome. And yes, we are twinsies, thanks to having the same trade paperback.
I see Junkyard has changed his image again. Very good. He's keeping us on our toes, keeping a variety in his images.
So with this trade paperback, I picked this up, I think, last year off of eBay, and I think it just got re-released again. So you can go to your comic book store and find yourself a copy of this trade paperback. Um, when for me in comics, which is I think a little bit different for you, you have a more consistent arc, I think, in terms of interest, engagement in comics, more or less.
That on a relative scale, yes. Whereas you have been more of a participant in the Star Wars verse as well as
Yeah.
the GI Joe Ville.
Yep.
So yeah, slight different focuses, slight different ways of spending time, but enough commonality to both have the same prop on hand.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So for me, my comic interests are kind of marked by what was the thing that got me back into comics, and what drew me back in. And one of those times was we've talked about before, like Identity Crisis, a DC short series, and that still one of my favorite comic anythings ever made. But then also the Kevin Smith era in Green Arrow, the Kevin Smith era in Marvel Knights and Daredevil, and then also continuing here with David Mack and Joe Quesada in Daredevil, continue to keep me in comics, preserve me in comics. And that was in this arc, and the reason why we've got it here is this is the introduction of the Echo character as created by Joe Quesada and David Mack. Uh, I typically think of it as David Mack's character, but after now recalling everything, yeah, I get it. It's the both of them.
So, and to dive into that history or to reflect on the time period from which the character hails. So,
Mhm.
right, we're talking the late 90s. It was a thing, it was a zeitgeist of comics to have people, pop culture people who had success outside of comics to bring in viewers. Kevin Smith, forefront among them. Uh, JMS. Straczynski was definitely going from Babylon 5 into doing, and Straczynski's earlier work was cartoon script related, Ghostbusters and a lot of other things. So then here comes Straczynski writing titles, Kevin Smith writing titles, and through the Marvel Knights imprint, just a little bit of background on Marvel Knights. So Daredevil was one of the lead books, as was Black Panther, as was the Inhumans. So this is at all a time where Bob Harris is still the editor in chief of Marvel Comics. Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti were partners in their studio, were then contracted by Marvel to come in and set up Marvel Knights, which was a great success. Which then, by the end of this run, Mac, Quesada, Palmiotti, and the rest of the team, the credits change, and then Quesada elevated to editor in chief. So Quesada had a very long run as Marvel editor in chief, and he's no longer the editor in chief. So just as a measuring across all the years, this character in this book predates Quesada sliding into the editor in chief slot over at Marvel.
Wow, nice. That's a good walk back into the history there. Yeah, I had none of that. I had none of that. I had even forgotten all of the other titles as part of the Marvel Knights arc. Was it Malayev that took the reins for Daredevil afterwards? I don't remember exactly.
Eventually, I can't recall if
Okay,
it was
okay.
immediately after Mac, but Alex absolutely, Bendis and Alex Maleev had a significant
Leave.
run on Daredevil shortly after that time period. So I'll say early 2000s, and but yeah, all kicked off by the big name recognition of Kevin Smith, who was of course a big Frank Miller fan. So we were following in a certain regard in a Frank Miller's footsteps.
Wow. That is amazing. And Junkyard explains that his new icon is or is his new image is the icon of the Choctaw Nation, the seal of the Choctaw Nation. So that is very cool.
Well selected, sir. And then let's try to get Mac. I mean, I don't. Maybe he might answer a tweet or an X comment or something. But his pattern, it's not very evident on the cover, but slightly evident. So this pattern of triangles in a circle after a
Mhm.
certain episode, the on Echo on Maya Lopez's jacket up near the shoulder, there was maybe not a complete circle or not a full visible circle, but definitely I right away recognized they were drawing that triangle pattern directly from the source material.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm eager to talk about that moment where it appears. So, if you have not seen Echo, I think we could still be all right in talking about this. This is going to be spoilery here, so you might want to pause, come back later, and watch. But to the extent that we can, maybe we can lop it off of the truly spoilery content. So this is from the description, which is really hard for me to read in my in my older age here, but this is the overview of Echo streaming exclusively on Disney. This is the origin story of Echo, and that is Maya Lopez, and she returns from her adventures in New York and finds herself in the Tamaha. The city of Tamaha in Oklahoma. And it picks up, well, I can't say that it really picks up from Hawkeye because, and maybe this is actually one of my issues with the series. Um, I thought, Mr. C, and again, if you're watching here, post in the comments because we'd like to hear from you. I thought that the cast was excellent. I thought I really like Alakwa Cox as Echo or Maya Lopez. I think she is fantastic, and I think the casting is just truly wonderful with her in that role. And then with the supporting characters, particularly with you've got Vincent D'Onofrio, who is amazing wherever he is, right, as Kingpin. But to see Tantu Cardinal come into the MCU, that's truly a gift. I think at some point we're going to have to talk about smoke signals here. Um, but by and large, the performances were good to great, and in that great category is definitely Tantu Cardinal and Vincent D'Onofrio. Um, I really love the grounded story in something that we can easily understand and absorb, and not being as entangled with visual effects and all of the chaos, or how does this connect into the multiverse. And I feel like I am feeling a bit exhausted of the multiverse
Okay.
and the cacophony of visual effects. Last year, I think, took a lot of the wind out of my sails for it. I did not particularly enjoy Quantumania. It's fine, but yeah. So for me, having the grounded story, I think, was really great. Um, but if there were criticisms about individual episodes, sorry for being a little bit all over the map here. With the first episode, I felt like it was a little rough in how it was put together, because they had integrated, clips of from Hawkeye. There were other pieces in there too, other new footage, and I kind of didn't understand when are we in that show, in that first episode. And then it's explained, 6 months later, and now we're in Tamaha. But I thought the first episode was a little bit rough. It was a gift to see Daredevil appear. Really enjoyed that. Kind of didn't go anywhere beyond that, so maybe it was just for a trailer or some fan service or what have you. And then I felt like with the end, it felt very, very rushed for me. There were issues I had with the end. But in that middle, or in the core story, everything that involved the Choctaw Nation, I truly, truly enjoyed and loved. So it was a mixed bag for me. But I thought it was generally good all across its episodes, maybe less so at the end, with the finale. But what did you think overall, Mr. C?
Well, geez, I should have been taking notes as you were going. We covered a lot of territory from location to character choices, but let's go here. So
Oh my.
Tamaha, as we can see, not a sprawling metropolis, not an
Yeah.
oversized municipality. So never been there, but I'm getting the idea that we had a good representation of the images that were captured across the 5 episodes. It's a smaller spot, and it, whatever that culture of being a smaller spot seemed to be reflected across the show. As far as the casting choices and characterization, so also the actor who played Biscuits was also someone in his younger years that we got to see in Smoke Signals. We might have to, again, that might be fun to do a Smoke Signals conversation sometime here on one channel or the other. But also, there he is.
Yeah.
Also noteworthy, Devery Jacobs, the actress who I've come to know on the Reservation Dogs series, who's in the role of Bonnie here. And so it's nice to see an actor across the different projects have a similar but different sensibility to their role. So now, speaking of actors with different sensibilities, if I can turn the phrase into giving some acknowledgement to D'Onofrio's performance, just his use of his voice. So the volume, the tone, the pace, right, and the face, the volume, the tone, the pace, and the face, right there. The aesthetic, the suit, it's totally consistent with Kingpin's suits from the comics, but it's a master class in acting. And I'll say Kingpin was the literal and figurative big heavy of the Netflix series before Disney Plus existed, before Disney Plus imported these former Netflix shows of Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and The Defenders and Iron Fist. Before that was all imported over, there's D'Onofrio, totally different than Thanos, totally different than Ironmonger, totally different than the Red Skull, totally. So I'm saying, as this was more street level stuff, just the tone, probably the musical cue and score as well, brings in that shade of like mature audience violence. And so, yes, Disney rated this current Echo series as mature audience, and there have been other things that were much more mature for their audience. So they were maybe trying to, I don't know, speculating, bump up interest by trying to have the more mature rating. And there was only, but I'm saying there's an element of horror.
Mhm.
It's a horror heavy. There's an element of the anticipation and the fear to feel you get a little bit of goosebumps, hair stand up on the back of your neck a little bit. It is an intimidating presence coming from the Kingpin. And then I was thinking again for Maya's character development. It's part of her resolution. She had wished that her father would have been around for her. She definitely made her own choices where she wasn't connecting with her cousin Bonnie, but also she was looking for as she was under the influence of or was claimed by Kingpin. That's part of the resolution she's trying to have with her family. So her family wasn't really there for her. So then I'm starting to think, okay, Peter Parker could have gone a different way if he didn't have the stable rock of your Uncle Ben and your Aunt May. You go character by character, but who did Maya have? She had Kingpin
Mm.
and was under his thumb. So of course you're going to come out a certain way. There goes the book. You're going to come out a certain way when you're when Kingpin is manipulating the entirety of your life.
Did you feel? Let's talk about that TV MA dimension there. So in the in the Netflix Marvel series, very violent, very a whole lot of stuff that is not in line with the typical MCU kind of popcorn fare. And they made in the marketing of Echo a big deal out of the TV MA approach or the rating. I didn't really feel like it was that violent, or certainly not on par with an episode of Jessica Jones. Truly, truly, adult themes can arise between episodes. Um, so but I think, I did appreciate that it was amped up a level. It was somewhere in between what we've typically seen with the MCU films and having the Netflix Marvel series on the other end. Did you feel like it was particularly violent? Did you feel that added element?
It had its intermittent moments or maybe strategic short duration displays of violence, but again, compared to what were the original Netflix series, I mean, which was known for the fight choreography and the film. I can't say it was necessarily filmed in one shot over what amount of time, but became known for the hallway fights.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and so Daredevil and Luke Cage specifically were it was definitely some exciting combat and well choreographed and well delivered. And so there were pieces of that in Hawkeye. Also, Vision and Scarlet Witch was a totally different type of design, not so much based in the physical conflict of street level characters. So yeah, it could have earned its MA by delivering a lot more on the violent side, but yeah, that didn't detract from my enjoyment. And let me also slip in here. I've read some reviews, and so I get it. We were speculating before we went live. Maybe people just aren't. There's a group of people who aren't enjoying the show, and
Mhm.
like what you like and don't like what you don't like. I was wondering if those people had from the late 90s, early 2000s, some working knowledge or relationship with the character of Maya Lopez. Might that make their opinion different? Or maybe it's independent of knowing more or interacting with the source material more. But for me, from 5 episodes watched, 5 episodes enjoyed. So far, so good.
Yeah, as we typically say on this show, right? If you and I don't like something, we'll say that uh, I wish that I liked it as much as somebody else, right? I wish I could have seen it with their eyes and enjoyed it like that. And maybe it didn't work for me, but this worked for me. I enjoyed it, and I don't think I necessarily needed to have that prior experience or prior knowledge of the Echo character. It's been so long since I first read these comics that so this morning I picked up even though I bought it last year, I finally looked at it less than like 5 hours ago, and it was like reconnecting with an old friend. Honestly, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is better than I actually remember. And so I mean, you and I have this appreciation for the art of David Mack, him as a creator. My son and I got to meet him, I think November, just last November. His artwork is in my house, and I have that affinity for him as a creator, and so it's probably. It most likely has some kind of influence in my affinity for the Echo character, but that's it. I don't remember a lot. I don't remember a lot of that character.
Tangent here. Do you remember back in the day when we'd be in the same place at the same time when we watched DVD extras together?
Sure.
And there was an interview with David Mack. Maybe it was related to the Daredevil movie, or maybe it was related to something else. And he had a stack of stuff over on his desk. And when he went to pull something out to show it on camera, like a whole pile of stuff fell over. So I guess it's just my dropping the book a minute ago was my tribute to David Mack. And I'm going to not so discreetly pick up the book that I had just dropped. So when we talk about different state-of-the-art teams or top pairings of creative writers in comics, I mean, I'm not saying DC didn't have their big contributions from the start, but I know Gardner Fox, and I don't know the name to match with Gardner Fox. But on the Marvel side, we're looking at Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Later on, we're looking at the Marvel side of Chris Claremont and John Byrne. And now, so this era moving forward in time, which is now 25 years ago, the tandem, the combination of your Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, and then reshuffle the deck, and you have Quesada, Palmiotti, and David Mack all together. It was a state-of-the-art comic. It was a top seller for a reason. It was inventive. It was entertaining. It had comedy. It had action. It had character development. It has everything you're looking for in a comic story or in any kind of a story.
I want to get to some of the comments and just say hello to Blue Sasquatch. I like sharks, and Mr. Campbell there. Junkyard says, now I want Luke Cage back. My favorite out of the Netflix shows. I loved the first season. That was just phenomenal storytelling for me. I want to hop back a little bit into the earlier comments here from Junkyard. Totally agree, Fanboy G, on the cast. Props to Cody Lightning as Biscuits. Thank you, Mr. C, for the Marvel history. What do you know about Echo using Thunderbird as a name versus Proud Star?
Oh, well, now, is Campbell right next to you there, Junkyard? Are you pulling a Campbell stumper? Let me before I come into approaching, since I'm not sure how to approach Junkyard's question, but it's always a beautiful thing when you can have Blue Sasquatch and Jim Campbell watching and interacting with each other in the comment section. Now, as far as Thunderbird, so the character of Thunderbird, John Proudstar, predates this character by, again, roughly 25 years. It's in the mid 70s. Giant Size X-Men 1 is where John Proudstar first appeared. And now I feel like I should have my Thunderbird t-shirt maybe next time, but I'm definitely having my Fanboy Cantina t-shirt. So could you put Junkyard's
put it back on. Oh, no, wait. Wrong one. Here. Okay. Yeah. Thunderbird as a name versus Proudstar. This is I am not familiar. This is outside of my realm here.
So, and just the best I can do is half approach Junkyard's question here, just in Googling around. So the Marvel character's name is John Proudstar, the younger brother, James Proudstar. And then to take a brief tangent, there were into the New Mutants, there was also Danny Moonstar. So now we have a decent representation of people with a native background. But all I can say is there is a real life John Proudstar also, besides the character of John Proudstar. But I have no information or inkling about Echo's connection with Thunderbird or Proudstar.
Just a couple of other comments here from Junkyard. Too bad they didn't film in Oklahoma. Fisk Kingpin felt like he just walked out of the comics. Wait, I had a problem with the Kingpin father influence. I kept thinking, what about her father in her young days scenes? Was he told to stay away? They showed him alive at least until late teens. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. In the comics, what happens is Fisk murders the father, and but the father asks or tells Kingpin, "Promise me you'll take care of my daughter," and then murders.
In that exact moment, with that promise, Kingpin shoots him right then and there. So again, a good story setup, but ooh.
Yeah, it's a grisly, horrible in how it's executed, and powerful stuff in the comics. But yeah, that's a great point. This timing kind of doesn't make sense, because why is Kingpin so present in that early age? It seems like maybe a Godfather type of role. You do see the father and Kingpin together in that karate dojo, or the wherever that is. So you do see them together, but yeah, the outsized influence of the outsized villain of Kingpin is a little bit unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so, what did you think about here? So I had a lot of issues, I think, with the finale episode, the final episode.
All right.
And I think that it could be, there's all kinds of rumors and stuff about what all happened with the series. Some news bits out there, or pundits out there, say that it was supposed to be an eight episode series. Obviously, it was 5. Each one of those episodes gets a little bit shorter in length, and rather than take the typical approach of going, week to week with a new episode, instead they pushed all 5 out. And I think actually Jeff Snyder had speculated on the hot mic months upon months ago that the reason for doing that approach was because the show was not good. Right, the blood was in the water, that was not very good, to use the Sharks reference. So so maybe that's why they had pushed it all out. I think it was all right that they pushed it all out, but bringing it back to what I was saying with the finale, whether it's because of the journey that the show had, or all the rewrites, or a lot of work happening in the editing room, the fifth and final episode felt very messy for me. And I think, and maybe to just explain that a little bit further, Echo okay, so now we're totally into spoilers here. So Echo it gets her powers in the finale episode, and there's really not any kind of buildup to any of that here.
I would say light introduction of there was a connection of historical characters of different time periods, but it wasn't a very direct or evenly spaced out set of breadcrumbs to be able to connect those dots. So yes, it was pretty abrupt and somewhat choppy, or not fully developed.
I mean, with the, again, the Choctaw history elements, or her history elements, for me were among the best parts of the series. But when we get to the finale, and we learn that her mother was a healer, and she had these abilities, and now they first manifest themselves in Maya Lopez here. And then it comes up again, and how she uses them to defeat Kingpin, so thus avoiding a bloody battle, but instead getting into therapy for Kingpin. Um, yeah, I felt like it was there something missing here? Was there something that should have appeared earlier that would have led us all up to, and so now you have this ruthless killer of or a ruthless fighter of Echo, but she's actually a healer instead of a killer. Um, I don't know. Something did not work for me in doing that origin story with her powers. And Jim Campbell writes, does anyone know how far in advance these shows are made from when they appear? I wonder if the shows are tweaked because of the Marvel movies receptions.
I would say proper speculation, Jim, and I would say also, there was also some regime change from one Bob to the other Bob back to the original Bob at Disney. Maybe the two Bobs of Office Space were somewhat a foreshadowing of how there would be a Bob and Bob situation at Disney currently. But there's many moving pieces, and Jeff Snyder, as you reference, is a pro, and we're here as hobbyists. So I can't say Snyder's wrong. Uh, who knows what as the general fan community started to have a greater critique, a greater disinterest in some of the more recent Marvel endeavors, then yeah, maybe you're trying to beef up your product. And then consistent with that, so what was originally going to be the Daredevil, what's the subtitle of it now? Is it the not Born to Run? That's Springsteen, but it's the same as what it is in the comics. But so the upcoming Daredevil project, and I really should be able to nail the subtitle of it, but it's not coming to me right now. Had a major overhaul and major revision, so they kind of, to quote the Green Goblin, went back to formula and started from the building blocks over again. So considering that they did a major whole overhaul on Daredevil and maybe shut down production right before it started or something like that, it wouldn't surprise me if, since Echo was already shot, that they spent a lot of time in the editing bay in the editing room and tried to restructure things from how they came out originally. May well have been 8 episodes because that was the format. So they may reveal these things later on further up the road, or we can continue to speculate and ponder.
I mean, I felt like with some of the other characters, we didn't learn a lot, right? I liked the introduction of Biscuits. It kind of formulaic, right, where you get the comedic sidekick or whatever, kind of and thankfully that was just a narrow portion of the series. So I didn't mind that. But then with the Bonnie character, it didn't seem to really go anywhere. You get that kinship, the cousin is like the sister. They have that bond, and then for whatever reason of not really Echo or Maya Lopez, cutting her out. But it felt like there was more of a story that could have been told about her that would have been interesting. I did love the cousin. With David Lopez, I don't know I don't remember the name exactly, but the cousin character at the bowling alley, I thought that was a wonderful performance that he had in the series.
Yeah, well delivered. Again, considering that we're seeing a greater than typical use of sign language and intermixed with. So let me just stay on his delivery first. So
Yeah.
he's speaking and signing, and has a convincing all-in delivery for all his modes and methodology of communicating. Coming around then to, then sometimes they would play the scene without sound to give the point of view of Maya Lopez, and then they'd bring in the musical score and the standard audio. So that was interesting, as well as showing text on the screen. So now you have text, you have sign language, you have sound on, sound off. So as a variety of presentation styles, I really liked what they were doing across all the episodes.
Yeah, so let's talk a little more on that representation piece. I thought it was executed just wonderfully well. It was great. It was seamless. The sign language use of sign language was wonderful. And I think seamless. The creation of the special contact lenses to see the the digital arms pop up. I don't know if it makes practical sense, but it's as a new creation. I thought that was excellent. But then also the representation of the Choctaw Nation was, I thought, really wonderfully done. Wonderfully done. It avoided, and I would welcome feedback from viewers on this. I think it avoided some of the tropes that can happen here, and I think it's also as a function of having, diverse creators or people from the Native American community being involved in the creation of the content itself, and so that avoids some of the tropes that can unfortunately surface. So I thought that was wonderful. In the comics, the Maya is actually Cheyenne. In the series, she's Choctaw. I noticed that in my quick reread there. But I loved every part that involved the Choctaw Nation. I did enjoy.
I'm glad you
Did,
brought that up. And another
yeah.
change from the original format to the current format of the character was a concert pianist, and
Hmm.
wasn't so much time around the piano keyboard from these 5 episodes. Yeah, maybe in the cut down stuff that might have been episode 7 or what have you. Maybe there was some time on the piano there, but so yeah, they did a good job, I would say, of again taking some elements and carrying them directly through, and then adjusting elements and then adding in new elements. So again, I didn't maintain a full 25 years of ongoing knowledge of the character, but for
Hmm.
me, it was a new revelation of these echoing powers, or the power, the echoing strength across the generations. Just as it was originally, or my old school concept of it was that she was able to, like Taskmaster, the villain, able to watch something one time and be able to physically recreate whatever happened. So, be it she would watch Liberace play the piano, and then she would do a concert including Liberace material. She would watch Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan movies, and then she'd be able to replicate their maneuvers. She would watch, most significantly, she would watch Daredevil versus Bullseye and be able to
Hmm.
take Bullseye's maneuvers as well as use Daredevil's own maneuvers against him. And so that was a great creative and interesting way to use that original power set in a convincing couple episodes, or issues rather, in the comic format.
So what do you think of that, though? The divergence from her powers in the comics versus what her powers seem to be here in the TV series. As you said, it does have that taskmastery type of thing, but yeah, it's broader than that. It says she can replicate anything. That she could sink a free throw twice, or an infinite number of times, because she's able to echo the behavior that she sees. She's able to replicate it, even though she can't hear. She could see the keys, the fingers moving on the keys, and replicate it. It's a really interesting type of skill. It's more of a skill than a superpower. It's grounded. Whatever, it's grounded in a way. But here she's got a completely different skill set. I suppose that, there can be there's precedent for the liberties between the comics and what you see on the screen. There's Marvel, an obvious fresh example there. Um, Nonetheless, I thought the powers that she has here were interesting. They were probably painted into a corner a little bit because you didn't see that echoing kind of the mimicking fighting style in the Hawkeye series. So had we seen that in the Hawkeye series, then you could have brought it forward into this thing. But here, since you didn't see it when she was fighting Ronin and others, or Hawkeye and others in the series, yeah, it wouldn't have made sense for it to magically appear here.
And then to that, I want to say let's see what is yet to come, possibly in Echo's future appearances. They'll dive back more into her original power set, or they'll further highlight, or not even further highlight, just give some recognition time, or give an application, I should say, of her original power set. And simultaneously, I don't know, chicken or egg, but working backwards or forwards, you can't defeat Kingpin. You can't have Echo full out defeat Kingpin conclusively in the same way that if at the time where Stan and Jack were going to put the Thor against Hulk, you didn't want to give a decisive winner in that battle because your Thor crowd and your Hulk crowd, so to speak, you wanted them each to save face. You wanted to have you want to leave curiosity for the rematch. So along those same lines, to have her power set of being able to heal or inject an element of emotional or let's say that Kingpin's physical trauma and psychological trauma had wired his brain and his neurosystem in a certain way. So here comes Echo with a healing power, which is new for me to see her have that. And so that puts a system shock on him, but then he still flees at the end and no doubt will come back to go against Daredevil and Echo and let's say the rest of the Marvel street level crew. So as a niche vehicle for how do you do that? How do you have the hero side have a good show against the villain, but not ground the villain into the dust so they're no longer a viable threat? I thought that was what I would consider a unique way to go about it to shock him by a healing factor.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, with this approach, I'm trying to pull up something here. With the approach that they've taken, you're right. You're right. It would have, if Echo was to immediately have dispatched Kingpin yet again, after she did shoot him in the head,
shot him in the face.
In Hawkeye, yeah, it would have felt goofy. It would have really felt goofy. Like, oh, okay, Kingpin can't be killed or something. It just would have tainted the stories that they want to tell forward with Daredevil and have this street ground based kind of storyline. So yeah, I think keeping Kingpin still around makes abundant sense for sure. So I'm just taking a look at my notes. You mentioned the outfit. I gasped. I literally gasped in delight when she shows up in the final episode with the design on her jacket. I love that immensely. She gets a different outfit like minutes later, but when she shows up with the jacket with that, I literally gasped. It was wonderful to see. It was wonderful.
And then the comment that I'm paraphrasing about the stitches, each stitch holding things together represents your connection to us, meaning her previous generations, going back a great many generations. So I like that. And then in the, I don't know, I would say procession or in the march at the powwow, and look how cool, right? Let's like other shows or going back to 80s or 90s film. Also, you have a crowd scene where there's a great many people, so you can have the specter of potential harm to that crowd. And so now you had at least two vans of goons all loaded up with guns, plus the the trailer, like the camper trailer set. So you're well stocked on your villains. Kingpin is there. You're at the power. So both her garb at that time, what she was wearing, totally stood out as purely distinct from everyone else that was marching in front of her, next to her, around her. Yet, so that was like I'm going to stand as an individual, but also stand with my people, with my community that I've been, I don't want to say ostracized, but definitely separated from for the majority of my life. So I was on board, definitely on board with those components or those sections of the 5th episode.
Yeah, the moments, the moments with her community, and in the final battle where you can see her ancestors alongside of her, the imagery is powerful, and it's a wonderful story of the generations continuing through you and still being with you, even in those moments. Yeah, as you said, maybe feeling ostracized or disconnected from the community, yet they are still a part of you. It really wonderful kind of themes and messages in the series. Yeah, but getting really maybe capitalistic about it. I would love a jacket, a men's jacket with the thing on it. That would be really cool. Yeah. Tell Disney to make one for me. That'd be yeah. So, all right. Well, other things that we should talk about with oh, wait a minute. One more thing that's bugging me about the series. The foundational part doesn't really make sense. Like, she is injured, right? So we see that 6 months later, after the cacophony of editing that happens in the first episode, it's 6 months later. She is bleeding. She's got a gunshot wound to the abdomen, and she finds herself all the way in Oklahoma, kind of far away from
Where she took the bullet.
right, or the streets of, or yeah, I mean, maybe there's some kind of story missing, but yeah, like, if we started that she's in New York and trying to take down the kingpin, the vestiges of the kingpin, the Fisk empire, then, and now she's shot. She's now all the way in Oklahoma, and she's going to further take down the Fisk empire, and become queenpin from Oklahoma, putting her family, even though she's disconnected from them, obviously at risk. No part of that really makes sense to me. Yeah.
It calls for a lot of disbelief. Now, again, you could say that somebody with a bullet hasn't been thinking clearly.
Well,
somebody who's been raised by kingpin logic or New York kingpin mob thug culture life. You could say that person's not going to think clearly. That being so, if that's on the other side of the scale from the point you're making right now, yeah, it still calls for a lot of disbelief, because it's yeah, and then it's not like there was a manifestation of the healing powers. So again, that's a kind of a long commute to be carrying a bullet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she was doing something along the way, and I just so happen to be in Oklahoma, even though I'm trying to stay away from my family and stuff. Yeah. It most likely just needed, and maybe this is again something that is just missing. Maybe there actually was a story in that period before jumping ahead 6 months. Maybe they just chopped off a bunch to get us to this time, and maybe spend another minute to create a more plausible setup. I think doing this here within the Choctaw Nation, within Oklahoma, story-wise, I think was great, as opposed to there could have been a story in New York, but to have this story here, I thought was still great. But yeah, some of the foundational parts didn't make a whole lot of sense. All right. Well, any closing thoughts, Mr. C, about Echo?
I see you did stock up a bit more photos.
So yeah. Please, let's do that. Let's go to the photos.
While we're doing that, I'll also, again, if I hadn't dropped the book a few minutes ago,
no,
page more, but I want to just highlight her first page appearance. Again, the triangle pattern is evident right there. The concert piano.
Yep.
And there she is. And again, they were just drawing a lot of juxtaposition or parallels or counterpoints with Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and again, top-notch stuff from Matt Casada and Palmiotti. If you want to walk us through the photo gallery a bit, and then I also had a couple of notes on just comparing D'Onofrio to the other villains in the other entries.
Yeah. Oh, and here it is. Now you can see the image that we were just talking about. The icons of Echo's uniform or outfit include that symbol on the chest, but and also the mark on her face, and that's in the comics it's explained a little bit. When the father dies, he puts his bloody hand on her face, and she takes that forward, for her as part of her uniform, part of her look. And what else do we got here? Well, I mean, I think we got it. We got the positive reviews for it. Yeah, and I think I really enjoy. I think Alaqua Cox. This is, I think, her first real major acting gig. and she is truly phenomenal, right? And we already talked about Tantu Cardinal and Vincent D'Onofrio quite a bit here, but for her, she has a lot to accomplish, as a deaf actress. Yeah, the way that she's able to, say so much, through the rest of her emotions, and how her presence here. Yeah, I thought she did a really excellent job, and felt more accessible. And again, it gets to that grounding of the series. I really loved her as a performer, as an actress in this.
She absolutely did nail it. And just my other note was I think she was born just a year before the Marvel Knights and those issues of Daredevil got
Yeah.
going. So that was just again interesting to me that the character was created at the same general time period that the actress was born, and now here she is as a young grown person, uh, in that role, and so that's just kind of a neat confluence of elements.
Would you like to see a season two? So I'm going to look at. I've got the quote from David Mack that he shouldn't say more about the potential for a season two. So he's kind of keeping it quiet, though he would like to see Echo appear in other projects, or continue to appear as a character in the MCU. Would you like to see a season two of Echo?
I would definitely. I have no reason to not watch if I'm going to approach it back in that way, but I have every reason to watch a second season of Echo. Again, if we got used to a certain number of episodes, or there's some variation uh, from one Marvel streaming service or show series to another. But five is maybe the record setter for, barring the Werewolf by Night Christmas
Yeah,
Halloween
sure.
special, and barring the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, barring those two intentionally one-shotted items. This is probably the shortest run that anything has had. So, do I want to see Echo season two? Absolutely. And similar to, I'd like to see some more screen time with Daredevil. And I mean, you get into some complexities. I understand that the full original Netflix cast for Daredevil is coming back, including Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. And
Mhm.
so Daredevil has had, you know, romantic dealings with the Rosario Dawson character, the nurse, and I can't remember her exact name at this moment. Anyway, to have again to I think it would be great to see Echo both with Daredevil and with Hawkeye, or with the younger Hawkeye, the Haley Stanfield Hawkeye. I think there's a lot that could be done. And how do you how, how do you answer your own question, Jim?
No, I'm all in. I'm all in for it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and just reflecting on the most recent Disney Plus series, which we have talked about on this thing, Secret Invasion was a disappointment. I did not enjoy that series. It had such great potential, wasted its characters, wasted all of our time. I felt I did not enjoy that. And with Loki season two, I did not enjoy the first half of that season. The back half, among the best things that they've made. Front half didn't really need to exist, I think, for some parts. It just felt like a very long way of introducing this version of Kang into the story. I just didn't enjoy it particularly, or the Sylvie kind of off to the sides bit. There's a lot of issues that I had with Loki season two. So for this one, even though it's maybe not the most perfect of series, and we've talked about it, overall, I saw it was good to great, moment to moment. And there's some really powerful, stellar moments in that series. So I would love to see an Echo season two, and I would love to see David Mack pen this stuff, or at least they completely blew an opportunity to have David Mack do some of the promo artwork. I don't believe he was involved at all in that, and that's a gross mistake, I think, given that he created the character. They missed out, unfortunately. So I think if they were to bring him in, that could allow for some rich stories alongside other creators to work with him, and have that connection to the Choctaw community.
I completely had not thought of that, but I do completely agree with it. Tying back to Secret Invasion, it was controversial. the involvement of AI in the opening credits art,
Mhm.
but absolutely. So going back to when these shows were Netflix appearing on Netflix, the intro art was really for me for each of the series an attention getter. So again, let's hope that that's another opportunity that may manifest for season 2.
Sounds good to me. All right. So, Mr. Campbell asks, what are you guys looking forward to in 2024?
Well, thanks for asking. Whether Campbell's trying to stump her or not, they could be stumpers, but this one hopefully is more of a softball. It's an easier question. What are you looking forward to? Well, I'm looking forward to finding a minute to hang out with Jim Campbell. I'm looking forward to finding a minute to hang out with the fanboy G over here. But entertainment wise, yeah, I am looking forward to uh, well, what's on deck. I mean, there's been so much reshuffling of the stuff. I'm looking forward to the DC reconstituting itself into
Hmm.
something that would be successful critically and by box office. And I would just that would be so cool to see people having a positive buzz about the stuff that's going on in DC. I would like to see a resurgence of Marvel where the same thing, be it the water cooler or be it the keyboards, where people would be having a positive conversation about that. As far as just like if we're talking about something specific that I would like to see that isn't necessarily slated, I absolutely would go for a follow up to the Werewolf by Night stuff because that was less than an hour, but it well, no surprise, it resonated well with me. On the other stuff, I'm looking forward to the C2E2 convention coming around. Looking forward to, no surprise again on me, the Svengoolie anniversary business coming up for Sven's 45th anniversary. Looking forward to the Sven Squad getting some more screen time. G, what's coming up? What are you looking forward to?
Well, on the Star Wars front, I'm looking forward to Star Wars Acolyte. So here we go further back in the history of Star Wars. Um, there's not been a lot of information about this forthcoming series, so maybe that's part of the mystery to it, or reason why I'm interested to be able to break free from the characters that we've mainly seen. I mean, I think there's going to be potential. The rumors are maybe an introduction of Darth Plagueis in the series, so that could be cool. But yeah, the notion of going into Star Wars and not being encumbered with these other characters that or the other universes or the confines of canon, or being able to tell a different story. It's still canon, but being able to tell a different story, yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I want to see something different within the Star Wars umbrella. And I'm looking forward to a break from MCU movies. After some rough entries, Marvel's should have been better than what it was. Quantum Mania was Quantum Mania. I'm looking forward to the break and maybe the recalibration and focus on telling good stories. And maybe that's the lesson from Echo here of just being able to focus on a story, a character, and not have to have all of this. And then it's going to intertwine with the multiverse. And we
Right,
need we all need a breather from that. So to just tell, you could do a Ghost Rider story. Yeah, bring back Nicolas Cage. He may be a little over, but bring back Nicolas Cage. That's fine. I'll be all in for that. But to just get back to more grounded stories, I think is maybe a good lesson from Echo and something to apply on MCU movies going forward. But I'm looking forward to the break. I'm also looking forward to Thursday. So Sundance is going on right now. I think it started 2 days ago out in Utah. I chose to not go. I thought about going. I thought, oh, I can just continue to watch movies at home as opposed to standing around in a line for 2 hours and being cold. Even though the list of films is a little short, it doesn't include a number of the bigger name films. Nonetheless, there's a bunch that I'm excited to check out, like Love Me with Kristen Stewart and Stephen Young. Also, a show called Thelma. Just a bunch of other movies that are actually available for online viewing. So I'm looking forward to that. I do enjoy that quite a bit. Um, what else is there? Oh yeah, and Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Yes.
That as a fan of the Ghostbusters franchise, yeah, I'm here for that. Absolutely here for that. Jim Campbell asks, "Will we meet Blue Sasquatch or the Mandarin this year?" Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we could arrange such a thing if Blue or Mandarin is ever interested. Yeah, we could arrange such a thing. Yeah, certainly.
And C2E2 might be the final time and
Yeah.
place for the long-standing, long-awaiting
Mhm.
reveal of will we ever meet Blue and or Mandarin? If we do, it's magnificent. If we don't,
Mhm.
it's great to have them along for a ride in the comments.
No, absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, we're at the hour mark. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you spending a little bit of your day with us. Mr. C, thank you as always for being here. Where can people find and learn more about Mr. C?
They can find me here. They can find me there. I'm 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 doing a bit of the Billy Zaluga, anyway. So yeah, it's Chris Conley, Mr. C dives in. Here's I know then the question. I don't think Chai Star is here to ask when is the next live stream. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you the next non-live I will be
Oh,
opening up this very Vince. Look at he's even got a cigarette, which is
good one.
historically accurate. So yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
diving into opening up the Vincent Price, the Toonie Terror, and then also on the one hand, literally on the other hand, let's not forget to check out Casual Crafter. He just dropped some
Oh,
Green
there you
Lantern
go. Yeah.
customs this morning, and right, terrordaves.com. Dave wasn't
Mhm.
on the conventional horror this time around, but it's a book review of actual nuclear, you could say real world terror, if you will. But it's always an entertaining read to jump into Terror Daves.
Oh, and I should have been rolling the banner to do the shout outs to our various friends, Casual Crafter and other outlets, other creators. So, all right. Well, Mr. C, thanks so much. And thank you all for watching. If you could do us a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps the channel to grow. And so we definitely appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with us. Thanks for watching. This has been the Fanboy Cantina. Take care.